It's time for the Metro's only racing talk show, The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs.
Good morning, race fans, and welcome to The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting at Council Bluffs. It is online at joeskarting.com, and that's karting with a K. The newly renovated joeskarting.com is where you can go for hours of operation, contact information for scheduling your outing with your business or just a group of friends, maybe even a bachelor party or a bachelorette party, and then where you can get prices and all that kind of fun stuff. joeskarting.com, the newly renovated joeskarting with a K.com, also located on 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs, in that whole little business district with Horseshoe Casino, Hooters, AMC, Quaker Steak and Lube. It's a great little district. Go down there and do a little bit of Friday night fun. Get yourself something to eat at the official watering hole of the Front Stretch, Quaker Steak and Lube, and go do some racing over at Joe's Karting. Get to find out what all these drivers like Jack Dover, Shaylee Bade, Stu Snyder, even Mike ARCA drivers that get involved in this stuff, and Silver Dollar National drivers. So all different drivers understand how much fun Joe's Karting is, and it's time that you do it. Dirk, what do we got lined up for today's show?
Hey, Dan. Today on Turn 1, we're going to go ahead and recap our Daytona race, get started with the recaps every week. We'll talk about the Busch brothers and their latest debacles. We'll cruise it on over into Turn 2, and we'll talk with Joe Kosiski about the Spring Meltdown, and we'll start covering the new 5-week contest. Mm-hmm. We'll head off into Turn 3. We'll speak with Brett Moffitt, young man from Iowa. And in Turn 4, we'll preview the Atlanta race and update on the Pick'em contest.
All right, so that's the show coming up for today, but let's get it all started off in turn number 1. Turn 1 is brought to you by Kansas Speedway, the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series night race, the Saturday night, May 9th race. Tickets are available now. Call 866-460-RACE. That's 866-460-RACE, or you can also visit kansasspeedway.com. And don't forget, you've got those smartphones, and apps are such a big thing. Kansas Speedway came out with their own app. Download it today. The most, and I hate to say this is the most amazing feature, but I've had so many friends that have told me about this, how they've lost their car after the race is over with. When you get to your parking spot, you can use the Kansas Speedway app to mark where your car is at and get you back to the car at the end of the race.
How cool is that for the nerds?
So cool. And you can also get race updates. You can get weekend updates. You can get all sorts of updates through that Kansas Speedway app, or just get your tickets today for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series night race, the Saturday night, May 9th. They are available now. Call 866-460-RACE or visit kansasspeedway.com. You can even purchase them on that app. So it's a big weekend. And it kind of sounds like, are we going to go to that?
I want to.
I think we're going to go to that. We're going to be set up at the Quaker Steak and Lube RV again, giving out, just hanging out and doing interviews and doing the show from down there. So we'll be doing that Sunday, May 10th, to recap the race from Kansas Speedway for the Saturday night race. That should be a lot of fun. All right, let's recap Daytona. First off, I want to get your overall thought of how everything went for the Daytona 500.
The race probably went about like you'd expect. The big one never really occurred. I mean, right there at the end, I was surprised when they did throw the caution flag when the day before during the Xfinity race, they went ahead and let the guys race back to the yellow.
I'm glad you brought that up. They ended up citing driver safety as a reason why they didn't, and I got the sense that the way that Kyle Larson was wrecking was the reason why they ended up throwing the flag, because I got the sense that they felt like Kyle Larson could have been in trouble with physically. Maybe he was injured because of his accident, and they needed to get safety officials there as soon as possible.
Yeah, and I mean, you always err on the side of caution, but you know that it's been several years now that they've tried to switch things up to be more consistent, whether it's in their penalties or their fines. You know, now they've got the different tiers on the fines, you know, and that's where they run into problems when they do it one way one day and a different way the next. Yeah. But I know from the inside scoop on stuff like that is there were probably two different people calling those two races from the tower. Mm-hmm. One of them thought it was, needed to be done, and the other one didn't. So,
you think they learned anything from Saturday's race? Because sometimes what happens on Saturday will affect the way the officials call the race on Sunday.
Yeah, they learned that they need safer barriers all the way around that track.
I tell you, that just infuriated me. Absolutely infuriated me. By the way, 4th year in a row that we have had maybe not a driver injured, but the question come up of why aren't these racetracks wrapped completely in safer barrier? And every time NASCAR said it's not, we leave it up to the tracks, and the tracks say, well, it would just cost too much money to wrap the entire tracks.
It's not cheap, but where Kyle hit, they have all the asphalt there, and you're scraping off speed. I think when they showed that the other day, that they figured impact was about 90 miles an hour. If that area had been grass, like if you look down in turns 3 and 4, where it is grass, there is safer barrier on the inside. So
and you were telling me earlier, and this was something that was completely to my chagrin, that sliding on grass will slow you down slower. Correct. There is more friction on asphalt with sliding. I guess I assumed that the car would sit down and maybe get stuck in some of the dirt and the grass, and it would be more friction. But you made a lot of sense that that's not the case. You end up actually kind of hydroplaning.
Yeah. Now, if the grass for some reason happens to be soft, from rain from a previous day or two or something like that, those splitters and stuff will dig in, and that'll stop you real quick.
Rip the whole front end of the car off, like when Carl Edwards, what was that, the All-Star race, or it was I think it was the All-Star race. He tried to go spinning through the infield to do a celebration, but he hit the drainage ditch and ripped the whole front of his car off.
Yeah, he had checkers and wreckers that night.
That was pretty good. All right, continuing with your thoughts on the Daytona 500.
Like I said, good race. Except for the part at the end. Your Hendricks was a major player, like you figured they would be. Mm-hmm. Junior made a big run at the end. After getting himself pinned back about the 20th spot for several laps. But, it was entertaining to the extent if you watch the last 25 laps or so.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way the super speedway races are. There's some excitement at the beginning, and then drivers kind of settle in and say, you know what, there's no sets and wrecking in the first 15 to 180 laps. Let's turn some laps. Let's have some green flag runs. Let's take it easy. And we saw that in the Xfinity Series race also. They took it very easy to start with, and then they started mixing it up when the laps started counting down.
Yep, and the new pit road procedures seemed to work. They did have several penalties,
Yep.
And
Jimmy Johnson got tagged with men over the wall too soon. There was a couple of drivers actually got tagged with that, and there's been a lot of them already, one race in, and there's a lot of people that are getting tagged with that through the Unlimited, the Duels, and now the 500. That you were saying on Sunday where we were Quicker Stick and Lube doing the party, that's always been a rule. It's just something that wasn't enforced.
Correct. Well, it's a judgment call, and if you don't get out far enough in the box or know exactly where that line is, especially where Jimmy Johnson was since he was in the first pit stall.
Yeah.
They had just put a red stripe there. And, it's your judgment when that car is coming at you at 55, 60 miles an hour. You got to figure out when that guy's jumping off that wall if he went too soon, And you don't like to penalize these guys if you're not sure.
Yeah, and now they've got video evidence. They've got measuring they can do. It's for sure. It's not a judgment call anymore. It's math. It's facts. So
yep.
A lot of guys are getting hit with it. It's something that he was able to overcome, ended up finishing 5th on the lead lap. So not something that ended up hurting him, but something that if these guys don't get corrected could hurt them at a place like a Martinsville or frankly any other track than a super speedway. It can hurt them.
Oh, yeah. Now that you don't have, especially on green flags, now that you don't have a 15-second penalty to where they're going to hold that driver, now you've got the pass-through, which is 99% of the time going to be a lot more than 15 seconds worth of going backwards.
Your top 5 at Daytona, like I talked about, Jimmy Johnson started 2nd, finished 5th. Denny Hamlin started 42nd, finished 4th. Dale Jr. started and finished in the same spot, 3rd place. Kevin Harvick having a good car. Had that caution not came out at the end, I think we could have seen a pretty good finish. He was kind of setting Joey up for something spectacular, but he had to settle for 2nd place. And like I just said, Joey Logano gets the win, the 2nd youngest winning Daytona 500 champion. Obviously, Trevor Bayne winning it a few years ago was the youngest. Joey Logano taking home the win and is essentially locked into the chase.
Yep, and with the engine problems that you saw, you saw a couple of the Fords. You saw Joey's partner Brad Keselowski blow up. You saw Trevor Bayne blow up. So the Fords looked like they might take it on the chin, but Joey's held together and got him to the finish line.
I think that might have made Joey a little nervous when you saw Brad's car go down in Grenade, because that's strange to see somebody in that tier, a Penske, a Hendrick, Joe Gibbs Racing, even a Stewart Haas Racing, to grenade an engine like that at a place like Daytona. But then when two Fords go down, everybody in the Ford camp's like, uh-oh.
Yeah, holding their breath. But, yeah, if I haven't read anywhere yet exactly what Brad's failure was, but my guess is it was probably the same failure in the 21 car also, and it was probably the same batch of parts because both those motors come out of the same shop.
The cars that didn't do so good, Tony Stewart finished 42nd. He was involved in an accident early in the race, got caught up with Ryan Blaney. No, it wasn't Ryan Blaney. It was
Tony's wreck was his own fault.
Yeah, and he took fault for that too.
Oh, yeah,
he said,
absolutely.
we were just loose, and I couldn't hold on to the car. Brad Keselowski, obviously, we just talked about losing an engine. He finished 41st. Ryan Newman finished 38th. Kyle Larson 34th. Matt Kenseth 35th. Jeff Gordon 33rd. There's a lot of cars back there that didn't have a good finish. Carl Edwards 23rd. Danica finished 21st, and she also got, this is kind of funny, she got a written warning from NASCAR for tech inspection following qualifying. It was a written warning. It's not any kind of it was just like a, don't do that again.
Oh, believe me, everything's written down with NASCAR.
It was just the way the fine came out, because it was like they weren't served, hey, you're fined this amount of points or this amount of dollars. It was like a, this is your warning kind of a thing. It was kind of odd how it was reported earlier this week in the news. But like I said, she doesn't get fined for anything. She doesn't get penalized for anything. It was just kind of a, hey, don't do that again.
Well, Carl and Danica, every there in the 20s, they were all involved in that big one there at the end. Jeff Gordon got tied up in that, which kind of a shame in his career at Daytona with that. But,
yeah. I don't think he's surprised, though. He led 6 times, 87 laps. That kind of happens at Daytona.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the way the series rolled out. But, the good thing is, if you were somebody like Tony Stewart, Ryan Newman, Matt Kenseth, Kyle Larson, Jeff Gordon, who all finished outside the top 30, if this is 2 years ago, you're kind of like, okay, I need to kind of pick it up, because now I got 2 points if I'm Tony Stewart going into Atlanta today. I need to get some good finishes to be able to start qualifying for the chase. But as far as Tony's concerned, I get a win, I'm in.
Yep.
Get a win and stay within the top 36, I believe it is, and he's in.
Well, and they, like I said, they all throw out the restrictor plate races anyway as the crapshoot. So. And I don't think he's going to lose any sleep over it.
No, not at all. So that was the results from the Daytona 500. Let's see. We got Atlanta Motor Speedway coming up, and in turn number 4, we will preview Atlanta Motor Speedway. Got some words of advice from Chad Robb, who is our NASCAR fantasy expert. We're going to call him Mr. Fantasy. You can go over to his Facebook page. We've got a link for it on our Facebook page. Great information, great insight to talk about who to take for today's race at Atlanta. Let's take a break, and we will come back in turn number 2 and talk with Joe Kosiski about the Spring Meltdown and kicking off our first 5-week Pick'ems contest. Don't forget, there is still time to get involved. You may have missed Daytona, but let's be honest, you are 2 points behind our last 2 placemen. So it's not you're not off to a you've still got time to get in there, and plus you can get free races from Joe's Karting. Thanks to everybody over there for giving us free races to all the contestants again this year. All right, let's take a break. Come back, turn number 2. We'll talk to Joe K about I-80 Speedway and kicking off. Oh, how's that sound? Kicking off the dirt season. We're a little over a month away.
About time.
And there is all of this snow on the ground. It'll melt, I think. We'll be back here on the front stretch.
Are you looking to book your next outing? Look no further than Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Located just north of Bass Pro Shop, Joe's Karting can handle outings of well over 100-plus people. Bachelor parties, corporate outings, team building, birthday parties, and much more. Give Buddy a call today and reserve your outing. Joe's will even work with local restaurants to cater your event. Book yours today at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. It's time to get to Joe's and find out what everyone already knows.
Sports fans, the brightest stars of NASCAR are about to light up the night again at Kansas Speedway. Megastars Dave, Danica, Carl, Clint, Jeff, and more. Saturday, May 9th, it's our 2nd annual NASCAR Sprint Cup Series night race. Parking is free and coolers welcome. Tickets on sale now with even more seats for $99 or less. Kids tickets just $29. Call 866-460-RACE or visit kansasspeedway.com today.
We're working the high line into turn 2 on the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting. Online at joeskarting.com.
Welcome back to the front stretch. Heading into turn number 2. Dirk had to step out, and stepping in his shoes for just the time being is going to be the man that helps run the show out at I-80 Speedway, and Kosiski Auto Parts, former driver in the number 53 late model around the area, and a NASCAR Hall of Famer. Joe Kosiski, how you doing, sir?
How you doing, Dan?
I am doing fantastic. Fresh back from Daytona Speed Weeks. Is Daytona still around, or did you guys ruin Daytona?
No, we had a lot of fun down there. Went to a lot of races. I raced almost every night from. I'm going to tell you, it was 12 nights, I think, or 13 nights. 12 nights. I went racing all but 2.
I think we had some snow here.
Yeah.
I watched my cats race around my house. That's all the racing I got to watch, besides what was on Fox Sports and in Fox Sports 1. So, yeah, a little jealous.
I don't want to make you jealous, but I actually got a couple in one day. I went to 2 different tracks in one day while I was there.
How was the actual 500? Good race, good event. Did you go to that, or were you guys kind of?
I was at the 500. Mm-hmm. I thought it was a little bit of a snoozer, maybe in the lap 80 range when Jeff Gordon kept leading, and it wasn't real good. But I'll tell you what, I thought it turned out to be a good one for the last 50 to 75 laps. I thought was a real good racy race.
Yeah, well, if anyone is expecting beating and banging and hard racing about the halfway point of the 500 or the super speedways, they haven't been paying attention to NASCAR, because those guys like to rough it up at the beginning and see what their car's worth, and then they all say, okay, all right, let's back off. We got a lot of race to go, and there's no sense in wrecking now.
Most of them start whining, oh, my car's getting loose. Oh, my car's getting loose. Tighten me up, tighten me up. And then they tighten them up, and then they're back to racing.
Yep. So it was a good race and a good turnout, and we gave away some tickets to the Spring Meltdown, which actually we're going to be talking about here is the reason why I want to have you on the show. That's the first big race for I-80 Speedway. You guys got the schedule released, got the event released for the Spring Meltdown, and so we should talk about that for a little bit. Coming up Thursday, April 2nd. Is that an open practice for the Spring Meltdown, or just all your classes?
That's an open practice for anybody who wants to show up and practice that night. I mean, we'll do it. It can be the guys at the Spring Meltdown or anybody that wants to bring their race car out that's going to race with us through the year sometime.
Is that open to the public? Is that something the public can kind of come out and watch?
Public can come out and watch from the grandstands. It's free for the public to watch. We do it. I don't remember exactly how it works, but I believe I'll have to ask my daughter. She's the one who takes care of that. But I think it's so much a car and then maybe so much a pit person, or maybe you get all the pit people in with a car. I don't remember exactly how it works for that.
Easiest way to do, go to i-80speedway.com. More information, or you can call down to Kosiski Auto Parts, talk to Lisa or Lee. They'll be able to help you out. But Friday, April 3rd is when it all kicks off. MLRA, CBC Super Late Models, Nebraska 360 Sprints, A-Mods, stock cars. Green flag about 7:15. I think Lee said that gates are going to open about 4. You guys are going to start hot lapping about 6.
I would bet that the gates end up open a little. You get a lot of travelers, and we have to open the gates just a touch earlier. But that's 4 good classes of cars. You know, I mean, that's magnificent classes of cars.
Pit pass is $30. Grandstands $20 for adults. Kids between the ages of 6 and 12 get in for $5. And if you have a kid under 5, get them in there for free. Get them started early.
Absolutely.
Get them addicted while it's still free. And then the next night, you guys are going to do a double nighter. MLRA again, CBC also, late models, Nebraska 360s, A-Mods, and stock cars. This time, green flag at 6 o'clock. So everything we kicked off a little earlier.
Well, the Nebraska 360s, so you know on that race, the Nebraska 360s usually pay $1,000 to win or $1,200 to win, and we're paying $2,000 each night for the Nebraska 360s. So we picked up the purse a little bit for them guys. The MLRA usually pays $3,000 to win a night, and we pay $2,000 actually on Friday night. So we lowered it a little bit on Friday, but it's a $5,000 to win on Saturday night. And then the A-Mods, I believe, is $1,000 each night, or $1,000 and $1,500. I don't remember exactly what it is, but
$1,000 each night.
I know. And then the Pro-Am stock cars, which is the same as the IMCA stock cars, that class pays, I think it's $750 a night, if I remember right. I don't quote me on all that, Dan, but it's right there, and it's a good payoff.
Stock cars $600 to win.
$600 to win each night. Okay.
Yep. I know there was a couple of revisions to the flyer that went out on Facebook, but I think I got the latest one. So $600 to win for a stock car.
Lee and Lisa talked me into all this stuff, and then I just sign the paper and say, okay, I okayed it, so that way they don't have nothing from there.
What about changes any drivers need to pay attention to rule-wise for the start of the season on April 3rd? Anything they need to kind of pay attention to? A new tire rule? Any kind of setup changes?
There's a little bit in the AMOD tire rule. Last year we only had stamped IMCA on the right rear, and I think it's got to be stamped on the right rear and left rear this year. Maybe it's the right front for the opening races. I don't remember exactly which way it was, but other than that, it had not a whole lot of changes from last year. Corn Belt MLRA is the same. Nebraska 360s, I believe, are the same. The Pro-Am stock cars, IMCA didn't do a whole big change, and we didn't do a whole big change to our classes there either.
And then following weekend, you've got the Bug Eater Bash. A-Mods, B-Mods, Grand Nationals, Stock Cars, Hobby Stocks, and Compacts.
Yes, sir.
It's so exciting. I did a little calculator. We are 32 days away from racing.
Away from racing, huh?
And it feels like we're a year away by the weather lately.
You also have to remember that if this cold doesn't go away, it's hard to get on the dirt and get everything set, and we can't turn our wells on and our pumps on or nothing else, and then you end up suspending the start of the season is basically what happens.
What's your time frame for that? Do you need a week for things to be above 40s? Do you need a couple of days? If
you get a few days up in the 50s, a couple days up in the 50s, about the week before or 10 days before, you can usually get it, and we'll get it before the end of the month. I think we'll get a few days in there that's going to be good, and you're going to still have some cold days. I mean, it is every year. We've seen some years when I think last year we had to cancel the Saturday, we moved it to practice on Friday with the races Saturday and Sunday. We're not going to do that this year, but last year we done it, and it was high of 28, if I remember right, on Friday night when we were practicing. But this year with Easter being on Sunday, we're not going to move. So if the weather gets canceled out, it's going to cancel out this year.
Okay. And then dang it, I had another question and I completely lost it. All right, let's keep going. You guys, Lee being nice and generous and working with me on giving me some tickets for the Spring Meltdown to get going, and we're going to start our first 5-week contest for the Pick'ems contest today at Atlanta. So here's the way it works. It's pretty much the same rules as far as the Pick'ems contest is concerned, but you need to tell me which driver you're taking for the season long and which driver you're taking for the 5-week contest, because those are two separate contests now this year, so they don't affect each other. So you could pick if you picked Jeff Gordon or Joey Logano last weekend, you could take him this weekend for the 5-week contest, but you can't take him for the season long. And then we're going to give away a pair of tickets to the Friday, April 3rd show for the Spring Meltdown to the first, second, and third place finishers. So if you're not in the Pick'ems contest, you still have time to get involved in it, and Joe's going to get you out there and get you started for the 2015
season. Does that mean even
season.
I could be in the Pick'ems contest?
Something tells me you're not going to have a problem getting into the Spring Meltdown, but you could be in the Pick'ems contest.
Okay.
You're a little bit busy. I don't know if you got time to email me every Sunday
truthfully don't
morning.
have time to email you every Sunday morning.
Hey, by the way, did you? I'm sure you knew the news. Obviously, being back for a few days, that Andrew finally popped the question.
Yeah, I left for Florida, and my second oldest daughter had a baby halfway through the week, which we kind of knew she was supposed to. She was supposed to have it on the 24th, was the day we was getting back, but she had it. I think it was on the 17th. It was on Wednesday there the week before. So I got a new baby granddaughter. Me and my wife.
Congratulations.
Cute as a bug. I don't know if that's Grandpa talking or if it's really that cute, but I swear to God, she's the cutest kid I've ever seen, And Andrew, he sends me and Mom a text that he got engaged on Sunday during the 500, and I sent him a text back and sent the young lady, Kara Milnerick. And if everybody remembers, Bill Milnerick used to race out at Sunset Speedway.
Oh, really?
It's his daughter. So me and Bill go back racing lots of years ago. So, and they got engaged on Sunday, and I sent him a text saying, congratulations. I says, what made you decide to do it on Daytona 500 Sunday? And he says, so I could always remember it.
Smart kid. He is a smart kid. Yeah, I saw her at the 500, and she came up and her eyes were all bloodshot, and she'd been crying, and I said, oh no, what'd Andrew do now? And she put her hand out, and I said, oh my God, you finally proposed. And he goes, I know, I made the plunge, I'm finally doing it.
That's good. So, they've been going together for a couple of years, and
4, I think.
Has it been that long? Yeah. See, I don't really pay a lot of attention to it. They got to do their own thing.
That youngest son of yours, he's getting old.
Yeah, it's my only son. Not youngest.
That's true.
Andrew's my only son. So
he's getting up there. He's gonna have to So anything else? You got the super late models. Your rules have been released for that. Your schedule's been released for the super late model series.
I believe everything's been released for the SLMR series. We've got a real good series going to a lot of tracks this year. It's going to be a good series. We've got good point fund. MalvernBank.com really stepped up this year and put the point fund up there. $1,000 for 10th place is really good. Speaking of point funds, the bragging rights series has really been getting big. We've got on the bragging rights late models, which is not super late models. It would be the Grand Nationals or the Crate late models, or the late model rules. A lot of the Nebraska tracks. I believe we've got 6 tracks involved in the bragging rights late model series this year. We've got McCool Junction, I-80 Speedway, Lexington is I don't remember exactly what the name of their speedway is, but
Dawson County.
The new off-road speedway in Norfolk, the Boone County Speedway at Albion, which I believe they're changing that this year from Boone County, but I don't remember exactly. It's not from Boone County, but it's still being Boone County, but, changing the name of it. And then I-30 Speedway in Columbus. So there's 6 tracks there that them late models are going to be traveling to and getting the bragging rights points. So that's going to get a little more exciting this year. It's got a pretty good point fund for it. And then in the A-Mods, the bragging rights series, Roger from Eagle Raceway has stepped in this year. He said that's been a little tougher part of his class. He's going to be part of the bragging rights with McCool Junction, ourselves, and Mary Melcher believes out there at I-30 she may come in with it. So her and her husband are going to be talking about it this week and letting us know. And I've talked with the guys from up at Park Jefferson and Raceway Park, and they're supposed to be letting me know yet this week. So we could have a 5 or 6 track bragging rights for the A-Mods, which you'd get that maybe paying up there in the $4,000 or $5,000 range.
That's definitely the stuff we need to do, is kind of all these tracks banding together to get together and don't fight each other, work with eeach other to help promote dirt racing, because it just benefits everybody.
Yeah, some people go, well, you're a NASCAR track and you're an IMCA track, and how am I going to go back and forth? Well, you know what? You know what a license costs for either one of them? They're about $100 for either one. Yeah. There's $5,000 on the line. Let me think. How much did you race for last night? $400, and you had to have one of the licenses. So, it's a great deal. And I'm glad that the racetracks. I've been trying to work with them. Kosiski Auto Parts, proud sponsor, throws in another $1,000 into each one of the bragging rights deals. We do it for the B mods also, but there's only 2 tracks that do the B mods. Is I-80 Speedway and McCool Junction. We haven't got any of the other tracks talked into going with the B mods yet.
Well, Joe, once again, we've ran out of time.
Okay.
We have blabbed. I said we got 11 minutes in this turn, and it's going to go by quickly, and it did.
We're done.
Turn 2 is brought to you by Kosiski Auto Parts, 51st and I Street in Omaha, online at KosiskiAuto.com. Heading over into turn number 3, we're going to talk to Grimes, Iowa's very own Brett Moffitt, making his his start for Michael Waltrip Racing in the 55 today at Atlanta. We'll be back in turn number 3 here on the front stretch.
This is Andrew from Kosiski Auto Parts. Kosiski Auto Parts is an insurance-quality used parts supplier that can match your foreign or domestic car or truck needs. If you have a damaged or broke-down car or truck, we guarantee a clean and quality part in next-day fashion. Kosiski Auto Parts, your neighborhood premium recycled parts supplier. Call any Kosiski Auto Parts salesman today by dialing 402-731-4592 or visit us at 5040 I Street in Omaha. Kosiski Auto Parts, our quality used parts will match your car or truck's needs.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the front stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Time to grab another tear-off and make your move. We're headed into turn 3 on the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting.
Heading into turn number 3 here on the front stretch, and it's time to talk to a man who his career, quite frankly, has exploded in the offseason, taking advantage of some talent and probably being in the right place at the right time, which is something you need in this sport to be able to move up the chain. Talking to Grimes, Iowa, very own Brett Moffitt. How you doing this morning, sir?
I'm doing great. It's a lovely cold day here in North Carolina, but we're heading into the race weekend, so I'm really excited to get behind the wheel of the 55 Aaron Stream machine.
Yeah, the day we talked to you, you on Wednesday morning, your area was just about ready to get hit with a massive snowstorm. So if you got any family left in Grimes, they're probably still digging out on Sunday morning when this airs.
Yeah, I really can't complain too much compared to back home in Iowa. But it's definitely warmer here, so can't take that for granted. But I've been southernized, as they say. The 30 degrees is now really cold to me. So if it was 70 year round, I'd be good.
Oh, we'd all be excited to have that, and that'd be perfect racing weather, right?
Southernized. Have you adopted sweet tea?
I have not, actually. That's the one thing that they still get me with. But the rest of the weather complaints and everything else comes natural now. So
that's the part I hated about when I first started traveling with NASCAR and get down there in Carolina or whatever, and you order an iced tea somewhere, and they bring you this big clump of sugar with some brown stuff sprinkled on it.
That's the part I can't get past, is the 100 grams of sugar per serving. So.
Oh, jeez. Diabetes must be rampant down there.
It's pretty crazy.
All right, Brett, we're talking to you today because you get to make your start today at Atlanta Motor Speedway for Michael Waltrip Racing, filling in for Brian Vickers, who is still recovering from surgery in the offseason. Can you talk to us about the end of 2014, your offseason, and how this came about?
Yeah, I've been under contract with Michael Waltrip since the middle of last season. Before that, I was still being used as their test driver, their development driver, but middle of last season, it kind of came together where I got to run some cup races. They put me under a multi-year contract, which was huge for me, knowing I have a home for the next 2.5, 3 years at least. So that was a huge benefit, and, getting to drive this 55 Aaron's Dream machine is huge, and I can't thank the people at Aaron's and the people at Michael Waltrip Racing enough for this opportunity. And like you said, it's an opportunity where if we go out there and make the most of it, it could explode my career and really be a huge help towards me.
I talked to Kyle Larson last year at Kansas Speedway, and he said the least favorite part of racing for him is testing, and you were a testing driver for Michael Waltrip Racing last year. Was that part of your job description that you just really didn't like, or is that kind of your route up the ladder?
Well, obviously you want to be a race driver. That's what you want to do. You want to be in races. You want to be competing for wins and championships. But climbing up that ladder, you need to do what it takes. And, these teams won't get better if they're not testing and out there at the track and doing simulation work. So, it's still an important role. And, just to be with a team like Michael Waltrip Racing and having them put their trust in me to go out there and do that for them is huge. And it really shows how much confidence they have in me as a driver.
Well, and you also need that seat time.
Yeah, the seat time is huge. Getting to be able to be behind the wheel of a cup car, going into these races really boosts my confidence, knowing what the car is going to do. Obviously, running with 42 other cars, it's going to change the aero effects of the car racing around other people. But at least being comfortable by myself at first is a huge plus, and being able to get out there and practice and start learning the aero moves and what the car acts like behind someone or in front of someone or beside someone. That's what I need to learn in these race weekends. So hopefully that all goes smooth and we can come out on top.
What are your plans for this season? I know you're filling in for, is it just this weekend, or you still have a couple of races in the 55 filling in for Brian Vickers?
Yeah, it's just this weekend. Brian will be back next week at Las Vegas, and everyone's really excited about that. He's healthy and well. And, past this weekend, I really don't have too many plans. Hopefully this will open some doors and give me some opportunity to be in a race car more often.
Or do you have any K&N races or anything, or Infinity Series, anything lined up?
Nope, nothing lined up right now. So, just like I said, hopefully it'll open something up.
Well, get in Michael's ear about getting you a quick ride at Iowa Speedway. We want to see you down there again.
I love the Iowa Speedway, so if I can make that happen one way or another, whether it's a truck or a nationwide car, I will be there in a heartbeat. And that's obviously very close to my hometown, and that track means a lot to me.
Hey, Brett, what'd your career do from going from Grimes to getting to North Carolina? What were kind of some of your big steps in there?
It really all kind of started when I ran for Michael Waltrip Racing in the K&N East Series a few years ago, back in 2011. At that point, that was going to be my third season running the K&N Pro East Series. And my first year was for Andy Santerre, and then I raced for Joe Gibbs Racing first season. And at that point, I was finishing up my homeschooling, my last 2 years of high school, and me and my dad just both knew as the right career business decision that I needed to be in North Carolina. I needed to be around the shop and in front of everybody. So that's what inspired the move. And the whole season I ran for Michael Waltrip Racing, I actually had to work in the shop on the cars. So that was really big for my career and really helpful knowledge-wise besides just getting to know the race cars.
So you've kind of always been in the Toyota camp then, because you mentioned you were with Gibbs before too.
Yeah, I've been a Toyota driver really ever since 2010 when I came to Gibbs. It's been a very supportive family, and I work very closely with everyone at TRD and Michael Waltrip Racing together. So it's been really huge for my career, just having one manufacturer to call home and not bouncing around. So that's been very beneficial, and hopefully it all pays off here.
I've heard that the technical support through TRD is paramount to none. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. Do you experience that on the driver level, or is that more on the engineer crew chief level, that technical assistance is through TRD?
Like I said, it's a very family-oriented race team. So, from every aspect we get support, whether it's me being able to go talk to the other Toyota drivers or them getting engineering help. Toyota is bar none the greatest manufacturer in the sport right now as far as how much support they give their race teams, and it's uncomparable to anyone else right now, and that's what's going to have these Toyota Camrys running really strong this year and hopefully contend for that championship.
Brett, coming from the Iowa area, that dirt track racing in this area is absolutely huge. There's no other state that has more dirt tracks, second by our neighbors, Nebraska, where we actually broadcast out of. What's one thing that you would give advice to a kid who's maybe starting in his kart racing and making his way up through the modifieds and sport compacts and late models? What's one piece of advice you could give them to speed their career along and make sure they're getting in front of NASCAR scouts?
The biggest thing is just never give up. I know that's pounded in by every professional athlete along the way, but there are many times where you're going to be put in very hard situations, and you just don't know if it's ever going to work out. There were multiple times where I've even considered, is this going to work? Should I move back home to Iowa? I don't know if I have a job next year. But my family's been very, very supportive in keeping me going and just telling me, what's one more year of your life? You're young. Why not just give it one more year, see what happens? And that's what I did. And finally, the doors were opened, and I'm getting this great opportunity. I got to run 7 Cup races last year for Jay Robinson Racing, and getting to drive the 55 car this week will definitely be the best opportunity I've had. And hopefully it really helps blow up my career.
What do you think you'd be doing if it wasn't for racing?
Probably building houses with my dad.
Yeah.
That's my dad's a home builder out of Iowa, so I'd probably be back there with him. I still love my Iowa roots and love being around my family and friends. But definitely North Carolina is where I call home now, and I love it down here as well.
When you're back home, what is do you go to check out any dirt tracks? Where do you go?
I love Marshalltown Speedway. That was definitely my favorite racetrack growing up. High bank, quarter-mile dirt track, and that's where I had the most fun, had the most success, and I love getting back there to watch the races. Or if I have the weekend off, I really enjoy going to the Super Nationals with some friends and just hanging out and watching the races that week as well.
I've been to probably every dirt track in Iowa except Marshalltown. So.
Well, we got to knock that one off the list.
You need to make it there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, Brett, have you ever dabbled in sprint cars and the kind of higher series dirt racers?
I haven't. I would love to. If the opportunity ever came about, I would love to get behind the wheel of whether it be a sprint car or a World of Outlaw late model. The competitiveness in those series is huge. So it'd be a lot of fun, and if the door ever opens up, I'll take advantage of it.
Dirk and I were kind of talking while we were watching the Daytona 500 last weekend that there seems to be kind of it's a little bit of a strand of NASCAR drivers that are also Sprint Cup or Sprint car team owners. Tony Stewart, Casey Kane, who else? Dirk, we were talking about. Does Jeff Gordon have a Sprint car team?
No, but he's part owner of Jimmy Johnson's team. So.
Kyle Larson, these guys. Was that something you'd want to eventually, maybe later in your career, kind of start to dabble in? Maybe become a team owner or car owner in a sprint car series for like the World of Outlaws or something like that?
Giving back to the sport, basically, is what we're looking at.
Yeah, I definitely think it's important to give back. I don't know if sprint cars would be my avenue, not really racing those growing up, but whether it be a late model program or even someone's modified program back in Iowa and race around the Midwest, I think it'd be a very fun venture to do, and hopefully one day I'm blessed with the opportunity to be able to do that.
Hey, maybe you could take the Tony Stewart route and buy Marshalltown Speedway.
I don't know if I'm going to go that far right off the bat, but it would definitely be fun being a car owner and being able to race dirt on my off weekends or during the week. Some of those races are, which that'd be a blast. I think it'd be very fun to be able to get back to the sport and be able to do a little dirt racing myself.
Next Kenny Schrader.
Maybe not as goofy though.
Hopefully not.
Yeah. One last question before we let you go. We're talking to Brett Moffitt. Brett, you're starting your your 2015 season off in the 55 for Michael Waltrip Racing. Are you nervous?
I'm more excited than nervous. I think this is a great opportunity to really showcase my talent. Last year running for Jay Robinson was a great experience, but it just wasn't the quality of cars that I was hoping to be in. And over at Michael Waltrip Racing, they've really put together a very strong team that will contend for wins in the championship this year. And, like I said, Toyota is doing everything they can as well. So this is a great opportunity, a great chance for me to really go out there and show what I can do. And, it's like I said, I don't look at it as pressure or being nervous. I look at it as an opportunity. And I think that's the mindset everyone has going into it. And I think it's going to be very successful.
Well, if your debut this season is as good as your start last year, you had a great qualifying effort and a good run there at Dover on your opener, and now you're going to the fastest track on the circuit. So
Yeah, I love Dover. That's another track that I do love, and I think that kind of relates back to Marshalltown. It's a high bank, short track, and that's where I grew up, and that's what I love doing. And hopefully I'll be back in a car at Dover as well this year.
We were talking here. First time I went to Dover was maybe in 2001. 2002, and it was like Brendan Gaughan's rookie year. And I used to work the truck series, and he was talking about driving down into one, and he goes, it's just like jumping off the roof of a building.
It is. It's until you get used to that feeling, it's gonna rattle you. It's a very nerve-wracking feeling. The car almost feels like you're in the air, and then finally you land, and it's just you have so much grip as soon as you land that you just have to trust that the car's going to grip up when you land and get back on the throttle and get off turn 2 and 4 well and carry that speed down the straightaway.
We've been talking with Brett Moffitt, the driver for today's Folds of Honor Quick Trip 500 Sprint Cup Series race at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Green flag at noon Central Time. Brett, best of luck to you today in the 55 from Michael Waltrip Racing.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on, and hopefully we'll go out there and have a very successful day.
Should we just go ahead and pre-schedule your interview for next week for when you win the race?
Sounds good to me. I like where your head's at.
Listen, hey, we've got a string of interviewing for drivers and them getting their first wins. We interviewed Brendan Gaughan 2 weeks later. He won. We interviewed Ty Dillon a week later. He won. So, and we've done that a couple of times now. So here it comes. Your big win this weekend at Atlanta.
I'm hoping so. Thank you, guys.
All right, Brett. Thanks for your time.
Hey, if you
have a good day.
If you make it over to Newton, make sure and save us some time.
Yeah, we'll do, definitely.
All right, thanks, Brett. Have a good one.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Well-spoken young man. I tell you, he's. I wish the best of luck for him, and he's got a really good car under him in that 55.
Yeah, it's a car that's definitely got some history and can definitely win the race.
All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to wrap it up in turn number 4. We will preview Atlanta. We'll update you on the Pick'ems contest, and we'll get a few words of advice from Chad Robb, our NASCAR fantasy expert, who emails me information every week about the tracks and what to watch out for and who to pick. That's all coming up in turn number 4 here on the Front Stretch.
Are you looking to book your next outing? Look no further than Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Located just north of Bass Pro Shop, Joe's Karting can handle outings of well over 100-plus people. Bachelor parties, corporate outings, team building, birthday parties, and much more. Give Buddy a call today and reserve your outing. Joe's will even work with local restaurants to cater your event. Book yours today at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. It's time to get to Joe's and find out what everyone already knows.
We have all been there before. Broken car part in your hand and some snot-nosed punk behind the counter has no idea what he is talking about, but he guarantees that this part will fix your car. You pay an arm and a leg for the replacement, get it home, and sure enough, it doesn't fit your car. Now, learn from your mistake and give an experienced salesperson at Kosiski Auto Parts a call today at 402-731-4592. Kosiski Auto Parts will get you back on the road with your arms and legs still attached.
Get ready for the victory lap as we make our way into turn 4 on the Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting, online at joeskarting.com.
About ready to wrap this baby up. We're rolling into turn number 4 here on the front stretch, and it's before we get to previewing Atlanta and getting some tips from I gotta enunciate that. Woo, getting some tips from Mr. Fantasy NASCAR, Chad Robb. Let's talk about the Kurt and Kyle Busch situations. Have you ever known to have 3 starting drivers out for one race?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's been times over the years where 3 guys were involved in one accident, but to have such different scenarios as this, no, not that I can think of.
Definitely strange. And we're not even counting Brett Moffitt substituting in for Brian Vickers for today. So there's a lot of weird situations going on. So I want to clarify something that a couple of contestants emailed me about as the week was going on. What if we'd have taken Kyle Busch or Kurt Busch for the Daytona 500? And I'll start off with this scenario originally arose last year at Watkins Glen when Tony Stewart stepped out of the car because of the situation that happened in New York, and it happened so quickly that I didn't want to say, well, you should have been paying attention and you should have gotten me a different pick, because I don't want to play it like that. I don't want to be that strict.
We're not going for $1 million here.
Right. This is just having fun and winning some prizes. So whoever fills in, you will get those driver points. Now, in a situation like Regan Smith, who isn't eligible for Sprint Cup Series championship driver points, when you look at the actual Daytona 500 point sheet, the championship driver point sheet, Regan didn't get any points. But I went ahead and calculated up how many he would have got because he filled in for Kurt Busch. And so whoever would have taken originally taken Kurt Busch, but then was left with Regan Smith, when Regan sat down, you're going to get that pick.
Yeah, it'll match up to the owner points.
Yeah, so it's really easy to figure it out. You're still going to get the bonus points. You're still going to get all of that. This is just a fun, simple contest. I don't want to be a stickler about, a Scrooge about, well, this is in the rules and we're going to go word by word, blah, blah, blah. We're here to have fun. And hopefully everyone out there is having fun with the Pick'ems contest. So that's just kind of one of the rules I wanted to clarify before we really got kicked off today. Kurt Busch's situation. After reading the report Friday afternoon, okay, let me back up again. I really do apologize for the interview on Sunday morning with Craig Kelly, because we did that on Wednesday night, and it was a good interview, and Craig really gave me some insight, and we were all kind of leaning towards Kurt's not going to get suspended. Nothing's really going to happen until there was an actual criminal investigation. Well, it turns out I didn't do my due diligence in an investigation, found out there was a criminal investigation, and it turns out Kurt was suspended, so we sat there all Sunday morning for 15 minutes talking about, Kurt's not going to be in any trouble. This is just a procedural thing, and NASCAR's going, no, he got suspended, so I apologize. And then that's also the reason why there was no Kyle Busch talk, was because it hadn't happened yet. I mean, that's just the kind of the beast that we have to deal with, that we record on Wednesday nights for most of the time, and sometimes action happens on Friday and Saturdays that we can't really report on. So the best way to stay up to date, like us on Facebook, The Front Stretch, and we'll keep you up to date with that kind of stuff. All right, Kurt Busch. Do you think he's going to turn a lap again in NASCAR?
Yeah.
Is it too soon to really ask that question, or
they'll throw the anger management stuff out at him, and you've got to repeat, you got to do this. I mean, if they're not parking guys for the drug stuff and making them do some rehab and that type of stuff, they'll give him a chance to get back in. I mean, it's his name's too big. He's a past champion.
But aren't they tired of this, though? I mean, don't you think NASCAR's had the conversation with Kurt of, this is it? We're tired of you being the bad boy. We're tired of having to pull you in the hauler and say, you can't do this, you can't say that, you can't do this. You're on your last string, and don't you think maybe that was a couple of strings ago?
Well, in my estimation, it would have been a couple strings ago. But, there's a lot of stuff that's changed. I mean, back when him and Jimmy Spencer got into the little brawl there about 10 years ago, I would have told them, get out, boys. Here's some boxing gloves. Have at it.
Yeah. And that was a different NASCAR at the time, where they were trying to get away from that.
Let's do it for charity,
Now that sounds like something that would happen at Texas Motor Speedway.
They could have put, I personally think Jeff Gordon and Brad Keselowski would have been a pretty good little charity match.
That would have been.
And then they could have both let him pick on Harvick.
I don't think the winner has to fight Harvick.
Attacking somebody in the back. Come on, grow a pair.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting, because this isn't an oops, I've screwed. I want to take this as like an AJ Allmendinger situation, where he was clean. He's had a very clean record, no problems, no issues whatsoever. And NASCAR said, you've had this, you failed this drug test. Here's your road to recovery. You complete it, we'll let you back in. But how many times does NASCAR say to Kurt Busch, okay, you can come back. You've served your penalty. You can come back.
Well, like we talked about 10 years ago, they didn't have any rules about it at all. Now you like with the drug policy, it's basically 3 strikes.
Yeah.
When you get to that 3rd strike, the first one is usually a set time frame. Here's what you've got to do. The second one's usually going to be a year. And then you still got to do everything. And then the 3rd time, it's 3 strikes, you're out.
Yeah, and this is all assuming that Kurt will be found guilty of some sort of domestic violence. But and obviously we don't know if at this time, when we recorded on Wednesday night, airing for Sunday morning for the Atlanta Motor Speedway race, we don't know if the Delaware DA has decided to pursue charges or anything like that. But for the time being, Regan Smith is still filling in for Kurt Busch in the 41 car for Stewart-Haas Racing.
Well, my big problem with the whole deal is she went to him and he loses his job.
Yeah.
But
from what I understand, and this is hearsay and speculation, but there is photographic evidence of damage to her face.
Who caused it?
Well, that's the question, is who caused it. So this is going to be a very... I don't know if he'll get back into a car. The way the legal system works in our country with how long things are delayed, I don't know if he'll be back in a car this year.
Yeah, I don't know if he will either, but I'm trying to figure out what he was doing picking on a trained assassin.
No, well, I don't know about you, but I tend to leave them alone. All right, let's talk about his brother, Kyle Busch, Shrub, as he's known, because he is the little Busch brother, into an accident Saturday night at Daytona 500 at Daytona for the Xfinity Series race, and out indefinitely with a compound fracture. Spent several nights. I think he was finally released Wednesday morning from Halifax Hospital in Daytona.
Well, the compound fracture, the leg's bad enough, but then he also broke his other foot. So, he's not getting around too well. And as I'm not a big Kyle Busch fan, but I don't want to see that happen to anybody.
Right. And that's... Now we're going to have the question of, should these guys be racing another series? They're too valuable. Now all of a sudden, Kyle's Truck Series appearances are off. His Xfinity Series, there's another $1 in the Nationwide Series cuss pot. How many did I rack up on Sunday? There's the $1 into the pot. So
you should have just thrown a 20. You'd been good for the day.
In case you don't remember, I'm doing a cuss jar for the Nationwide Series, which is now the Xfinity Series, and every time I do it, I throw a $1 into the pot, and we'll figure out I think it's going to buy a round of beers at the Homestead party, but anyways.
By a few rounds, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it may buy a lube tube, but to be honest with you, a lube tube and a bucket of wings is what it'll end up buying. So anyways, Kyle's Xfinity Series obligations and now his Cup Series obligations are now out the window, and that's lost revenue for sponsors and for Joe Gibbs Racing. So, again, that conversation will come up. Should these guys be racing another series, just like it came up when Tony Stewart got injured at Oskaloosa? No, over in Iowa. What was that track he got?
I think it was at Oskaloosa,
okay.
I think.
I don't think it's Oskaloosa. It starts with an O, but it's escaping me right now. But that conversation comes up every time these drivers are hurt, and I don't think they should. I think these guys, there's certain guys like Kyle and like Tony and like Kyle Larson, and these guys that they've got to get a certain amount of racing in per week to feel good.
Well, it's the difference between being on a dirt track and racing a sprint car, because Kyle could have just have easily got hurt in the Cup race or in the truck race.
Or driving down the road at 225 miles an hour.
Which he's been known to do. But, no, I mean, as long as you're staying in your discipline, that's like Brad Keselowski's contract. The only vehicles he can drive are the ones that he either owns, which is his Truck Series stuff, or Roger owns. So,
and that's kind of the same thing. I think Carl Edwards had the same thing with Roush.
After he got hurt.
It was, hey, now, I need you up here turning laps. So that's the Busch brothers updates. David Reagan is set to drive Kyle Busch's car today at Atlanta Motor Speedway. And let's talk Atlanta Motor Speedway. We got a few tips from Chad Robb, Mr. Fantasy, his tips for Atlanta. Now, Atlanta's an old, worn-out track, and he says drivers who are good at moving around and finding a fast groove can usually excel at this track. So think dirt track racers when you're trying to decide your pick. Also, don't overlook past champions like Jeff Gordon, who leads the most, who is active with 5 wins. Tony Stewart, Casey Kane, Carl Edwards, and Jimmy Johnson all have 3 wins. And don't overlook Kevin Harvick. He dominated the race last year. Now, an interesting thing that's going to get thrown into the wrench that's going to get thrown into the gears here is last year's Atlanta race was ran August 31st. We're at a completely different time frame right now, and so weather changes are huge. That's going to throw a lot of different setups at these guys to be able to. The car that Kevin ran last year, he can't run that today at Atlanta. But this is a big time shift. We could see a lot faster conditions if the temperatures are in the 70s, 80s rather than the hundreds, like they probably were in Atlanta last year in August. So this could be a big switch for him. Who has the momentum going into this race? It's tough to talk momentum when you're talking about one race of the season, but Joey Logano looked strong last year, is looking strong already this year, so he's got some momentum. Kevin Harvick obviously winning the championship and finishing runner-up last weekend at Daytona. He's got some momentum. And then there's 2 test sessions that happen Thursday and Saturday, so you can check out the practice times when I send them out. Chad recommends for your drivers, top pick Kevin Harvick, next Joey Logano, Jeff Gordon, Matt Kenseth, and Casey Kane. Those are the 5 drivers that you should really think about picking for one of these for this race today.
And I think that second Atlanta race is what went to Kentucky.
That very well could have been. All right, for the Pick'ems contest, get your picks in before green flag waves today at noon for Atlanta Motor Speedway. It'll be just after noon that the green flag officially waves, so make sure you have your pick in to me before then. If you don't have it in now, get it in now because we don't want you to get miss out on it. Talking about the Pick'ems contest update, it's pretty up in the air right now because there was a lot of drivers that took.
The 88.
The 88 was a big popular pick, and then let's see. Also, Jeff Gordon was a pretty popular pick, but. There's, I think, a 6-way tie for the lead. Then there's like an 11-way tie for like 5th place. So it's pretty piled up right now, but it'll start to work its way out as we go on. And then today we start the 5-week Pick'ems contest. We just talked about it in turn number 2 with Joe Kosiski. So make sure when you're sending in your picks that you determine between your Atlanta season-long pick and your 5-week pick so that I can make sure, because it can be 2 different picks, and you can pick any driver you want to. They're 2 separate contests, and we're going to be giving away tickets to the Spring Meltdown to the top 5 finishers. So make sure you get your picks in and separate those 2. If you're not a part of the Pick'ems contest yet, you could still get into it. You can maybe battle along for the 5-week contest, or there's still time to get involved in the season-long contest and win all these great prizes. Just send me an email, frontstretch590@gmail.com. It's absolutely free.
And just remember, on the 5-week contest, you can only pick a driver one time.
That's right, one time in the 5 weeks. I'll send you all. If you're new to the contest, I'll send you all the rules. But a lot of fun still to be had this season as we're only one race in. All right, Dirk, you ready to call it a day?
It's always ready to call it a day because there's a race on.
Absolutely. Hey, what's your new email address, by the way?
My new email is dirk.tfs, as in the front stretch, at gmail.com.
And I am at frontstretch590@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook at The Front Stretch. Find us, like us, email us, comment, join into the show. We'd love to have you have a conversation with us. Thanks so much for joining us. Want to say thank you to all of our great sponsors, Quaker Steak and Lube at Council Bluffs, the official watering hole of the Front Stretch. Chris will have all the NASCAR action on the big screens today at noon to watch Atlanta Motor Speedway. And thanks to Kansas Speedway for supporting the Front Stretch. And as always, Joe Kosiski at I-80 Speedway and Kosiski Auto Parts for supporting the show. We'll be back next weekend. We'll recap Atlanta. We will preview Las Vegas, and we may just have a Truck Series engineer from a Toyota team join us. I got a connection with his dad. That's a little bit of a hint who's going to join us. We'll be back next weekend to do it all again. Thank you, Dirk.
All righty.
Have a great weekend.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the Front Stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs has taken a page out of IMCA's rulebook and gone crate. These brand new low-emission engines will still have you white-knuckling it all through the Metro's fastest indoor facility. Joe's Karting is now friendly for all skill levels with their brand new Honda-powered engines. It's time to get to Joe's today and find out what drivers like Jack Dover, Shaylee Bate, and Andrew Kosiski have known for years. Located in Council Bluffs and online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K.
Sports fans, the brightest stars of NASCAR are about to light up the night again at Kansas Speedway. Megastars Dayton, Danica, Carl, Clint, Jeff, and more. Saturday, May 9th, it's our second annual NASCAR Sprint Cup Series night race. Parking is free and coolers welcome. Tickets on sale now with even more seats for $99 or less. Kids tickets just $29. Call 866-460-RACE or visit kansasspeedway.com today.